Hello guys, Garuda here with another DUSKHAVEN video. One of DUSKHAVEN's primary attractions is the fact that there are quite a few custom pseudo-classes, such as the Tinker and the Monk, which start from an original class, Hunter and Priest respectively, but which turn into totally new playstyles. The Monk is absolutely amazing, really fun, and I've previously made a guide for it, check it out if you're interested. DUSKHAVEN had also provided all talent specializations with a new flavor, such as giving Enhancement Shaman the option to put on a shield and become a Stone Warden tank. I'm currently leveling one, and they're pretty strong so far. Another one of those is the Melee Hunter. Not the gimmicky version some people try to make the retail survival hunter into, but a genuinely new and absolutely viable melee spec. I've been playing this for a while now, and I have to say it's really fun. Today I'll provide you with a Melee Hunter basic guide, covering the abilities, rotation, gear, talents, and so on. Keep in mind that I'm still a novice, so don't treat this as an advanced guide. It's meant to give you a general idea of the spec and get you interested in giving it a go as well. Before we get started, if you want to see more of this content, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment below. Okay, as a melee hunter, the core ability is Aspect of the Beast. Everything revolves around this stance. In Retail Classic, this was a pretty lame aspect, and almost nobody used it, as it only made you untrackable, pretty pointless except in very niche situations. On DUSKHAVEN, however, it gives you 25% more melee damage, stops you from using a ranged weapon, mostly, and allows the use of new melee hunter abilities, such as Lacerate. You lacerate the target, dealing damage and making them bleed over 15 seconds, affected by haste. Damage increased by attack power and your level, stacks up to 3 times. Wildfire Cluster. You inflict fire damage and shred the armor of enemies in a 10-yard radius, and afflict them with rend for 15 seconds, stacks up to 3. Shrapnel Bomb. 1 second cast, you throw a bomb at the target, inflicting damage and increasing the physical damage it takes by 85 for 10 seconds. Scales with level and attack power. Also restores a massive amount of mana, but you need to be between 5 and 30 yards range of the target. Poisoned Harpoon. Throws a harpoon at the enemy, healing yourself for 10% of your HP and grappling towards the target. Inflicts normal damage plus 225, and then another 255 nature damage every 2 seconds over 10 seconds. Scales with level. Your disengage incurs no cooldown for 12 seconds after using harpoon, which means you can repeatedly spam it to get far away. It's pretty fun. Explosive Powder. Drench your weapons in an explosive mixture, inflicts normal damage plus 30, and knocks back the target. This can even be used to interrupt certain boss abilities. And of course, you still keep the good old Raptor Strike, basically a heroic strike on a 6-second cooldown, and Mongoose Bite, a plain spammable damage ability. Other useful abilities you keep as a melee hunter are Explosive Trap. You place a fire trap which explodes when triggered, causing immediate fire damage and burning all enemies over 20 seconds. Feign Death. Very useful to immediately drop all aggro or to avoid dying during a wipe. Deterrence. Increases parry chance by 100%, ranged attacks cannot hit you, and spells will be deflected for 5 seconds. Very useful defensive cooldown. You can use it, for example, to avoid Flame Jet's damage in Heroic Onyxia. Cursed Arrow. Shoot an arrow, increasing the magical damage taken by the target by 11% for 15 seconds, 1 minute cooldown. Freezing Trap. Shoot an arrow which places a freezing trap at a location, trapping the enemy. Be warned that you need to use rank 1 in order to be able to shoot it wherever you want. The other ranks are just normal traps on your location. Frost Trap. Place a frost trap which slows all enemies by 50% when they walk over it. Useful if you need to kite, can be combined with Explosive Trap. Disengage, leap backwards, 25-second cooldown. Rapid Fire, 3-minute cooldown, increases your attack speed by 30%. That's about it regarding useful spells. Your toolkit seems rather limited, but definitely isn't lacking much. You've got an ability for almost every scenario, and you'll never be sitting there just auto-attacking. The general rotation goes something like this. Throw a shrapnel bomb to the target once it's engaged by the tank, then harpoon yourself to it, smacking it with a lacerate, cursed arrow, wildfire cluster, and explosive trap. Line up a raptor strike, give it an explosive powder if it's a mob that won't move, and spam mongoose by it. Proceed to use lacerate, wildfire cluster, and explosive trap whenever they're off cooldown, and when poisoned harpoon is ready, strafe 5 yards away from the target and leap back, or just disengage. You can also throw a shrapnel bomb every time it's off cooldown before harpooning back. This will ensure you'll never run out of mana. Now it's just a matter of keeping your spells on cooldown and cycling through them, and making sure your 2 strong bleeds stay up on the main target. They really start to add up, especially if there are multiple targets. That's the rotation in a nutshell. Pretty basic, but fun and engaging, especially during chaotic boss fights. Moving on to talents, I would say the survival tree is by far the most beneficial to melee hunters, with talents such as Survival Instincts, which increases your expertise by 10. Trap Mastery increases the periodic damage of your explosive trap by 30%. Hunter vs. Wild increases your and your pet's attack power by 30% of your total stamina. They're not super interesting because the melee hunter abilities don't come from talents, they're just meant to enhance your toolkit. This is the spec I'm currently using. Now, your talents will vary depending on your playstyle. More specifically on whether you use a pet or not, and if you go with a two-hander or dual wielding. Not using a pet is, in my experience and opinion, the way to go here. Not only do you get the lone wolf buff, which you automatically get when you dismiss your pet, increasing your damage by 25%, you also don't have to deal with the nuisances of pet management. If you don't use a pet, take the improved lone wolf talent, giving you another 3% damage. From my DPS testing, Lone Wolf is also the superior DPS choice. Using a pet, I was averaging 1.5k DPS, but without it, I hit 1.7, 1.8k. If you do want to keep your pet, don't forget to use Kill Command as well. Dual wielding 2 one-handers versus using 1 two-hander doesn't seem to impact your damage all that much. It averaged out about the same, given equal item level. However, if you're dual wielding, you do need to take into account the, in my opinion, necessity of talents such as Point of No Escape and Sniper Training, which does open up Find Weakness, another pretty useful skill and a 45-second cooldown. If you use a strong two-hander, that basically frees up around 5 to 6 talent points. However, as I said, the difference ultimately isn't that large, so just use the best weapons you can find. Regarding glyphs, there aren't that many choices. The number one must-have is Glyph of the Beast, which gives you and your pet another 5% attack power bonus. The other glyph doesn't really matter, and you can get whatever suits your playstyle. You can go for less cooldown on deterrence, freezing a trap, adding a slowing effect when it breaks, stronger mend pet, bestial rat if you want to go BM instead of survival, and so on. Unfortunately, Glyph of Explosive Trap is disabled when you've got Aspect of the Beast on, otherwise that'd be the go-to second glyph. As for minor glyphs, I would say Glyph of Feigned Death is the best, and either Mend Pet or Glyph of the Pack. Moving on to the potential races you can pick for your melee hunter, there are quite a few options here on DUSKHAVEN. All of them. That's right, just like warriors, hunters can choose whatever race they want to play, although if you pick a gnome, you'll become a tinker, so they're out. If you want to go for maximum damage, your best options are Orc, Blood Fury, Axe Specialization and extra damage for your pet, Troll Berserking, and Draenei for their 1% hit aura. The overall difference in the end is pretty minor, however, so pick whatever you want to play, and if you don't like the way something looks, keep in mind that you can buy all kinds of toys to change your appearance. Gearing your melee hunter is comparable to gearing a ranged hunter. Leather and mail with agility, hit, and crit, although as a melee you should also be on the lookout for expertise. Your survival talents cover a chunk of it, but try to get it on gear as well. Your ranged weapon will become a stat stick, and your melee weapon conversely will become the more important one. Pick a strong, slow two-hander with ideally agility, crit hit, and/or attack power. Great options would be Zinrock from Hakar in CG, Spinal Reaper from Molten Core, the Untamed Blade and Ashkandi from Blackwing Lair, or the great axe of the warrior from Mythic Plus. If you dual wield, pick slow weapons with agility on them, such as Doom's Edge from Blackwing Lair or Brutality Blade from Molten Core. To end the video, let's go over some of the strengths and weaknesses of Duskhaven's Melee Hunter. One of their main strong points is that they do quite a lot of damage. The burst damage is decent, but not great, but their sustained output is excellent. I'm far from Bis gear, but without any buffs or consumables or whatever, I can pull off 1.2k DPS single target, 1.8k cleave, much more if it's a fight with many adds. Their rotation is fun and engaging, and always keeps you on your toes. You're leaping around a lot, disengaging and then harpooning back, throwing bombs, laying traps. It all feels very much in line with the fantasy aspect of what a survivalist ranger would look like. You're very mobile as well, due to harpoon and disengage, and you can even use aspect of the pack to increase your speed if needed. For example, between pulls to speed up a dungeon or to recover from a wipe. A boss knocks you back, like Ragnaros or Gar, no problem, harpoon back or turn around and disengage. In addition, you're pretty damn durable. You're wearing mail and rocking pretty high HP. If something aggroes you, you can feign death, or deterrence to fend off nasty, rate-wiping damage such as heroic Onyxia's flame jets. You're a mana user, but unlike pretty much every other mana user, with the exception of Tinkers, you'll never have to worry about running out of this resource, provided you use Shrapnel Bomb. That being said, there are also some downsides to playing a melee hunter. The rotation is fun, but having to run out or disengage a bit in order to do your maximum damage via Shrapnel Bomb and Poisoned Harpoon can be awkward in certain scenarios, if the terrain isn't in your favor, for example. Poisoned Harpoon also lands you in the middle of the mob, more or less, not behind it, so you always need to reposition yourself, potentially causing you to miss some melee swings, dropping your lacerate stacks and so on. This gets better the more experience you get with the spec. And finally, you're a melee now, which means you'll be subjected to things ranged DPS usually doesn't have to worry about, such as cleaves and boss AoE. That's about it really. Playing a melee hunter is a satisfying, wild ride, and I can fully recommend trying out the spec if you've got the chance. That's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.